Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Tuesday to everyone. It's Tea Talks with Coach Tracey. Hope everyone is doing wonderful. Hello, everyone that's joined me. I am streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. So if you see me looking in other directions and at you, that's because I'm trying to make sure that I am communicating and showing love to all of my communities. Thank you all for joining me today for another session of Tea Talks with Coach Tracey. For those of you guys who don't know me, first of all, let me introduce myself. But while I am introducing myself, how about you introduce yourself to me as well? Because everybody doesn't know me, right? So if you would do me a huge favor and drop in the comments where you are catching the live from. And if you are catching this on the replay, let me know where you are tuning in from as well. And we'll give people just a few minutes to pop on. All right. Well, again, I am Coach Tracey. I am a trauma healing life coach for high achieving Black women who are ready to kick fear to the curb and to take back their sovereignty over who they are, take back their power, use their voice to say what it is that they want, what they don't want, and to live unapologetically, taking agency over their life, meaning responsibility for their life, and up-leveling in a way that they have not up-leveled before by healing the trauma in their life. And trauma could be anything. Trauma could be a bad breakup. Trauma could be an accident. Trauma could be childhood trauma. It could be neglect or abandonment. There is no such thing as, in my opinion, as a trauma that is minimized. Your trauma is as big as it is for you. And I want to say that again, trauma is as big as it is for you. There's no such thing as a small trauma, because how you experience that trauma, whatever happened to you or did not happen to you, because trauma can be what did not happen for you, such as neglect or abandonment. It is how you experienced it. So don't let anyone minimize what you have experienced and what you've gone through. And since I've got everybody else telling me where they're here from, I've got Christy Ruffin from St. Louis, Missouri. Thank you so much, Christy. Thank you. I love you as well. She loves my page. She's on Instagram. I have some folks from Atlanta. What? In the ATL. The ATalians. But I'm over here in Southern Maryland, really in Southern Maryland. I'm about 2 hours from everything, which I like it some days, and some days it's like I gotta drive that far just to get to DC. But it's a great ride. Where my folks at over on Facebook? Where my folks at over on Facebook? Let me know where you are popping in from. Today's topic is interesting. But before we get into today's topic, let's talk about today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Groovy Herbal Teas. The owner is Angel Johnson. She is a sweetheart. Groovy Herbal Teas is a Black-owned, woman-owned tea company. And today I am sipping on her Immunity. I love her packaging. Let me grab it. That was the last bag in that package. So this is how her packaging looks. This is the hibiscus tea. The first package that I got from her was a combination of her various teas. And the first tea that I tried was the hibiscus tea, and I fell in love with it. So I got me more of it. And yes, let me tell you, first of all, her teas are designed to help with dis-ease. It's designed to help minimize and hopefully prevent illness. So if you are dealing with any type of health condition or anything, I would encourage you to check out her teas. Today, this is my first time trying the Immunity. So we're going to be testing this one together. Hey, I am Aloe Lover and Frederick Peters 233. I usually use these beautiful ginger honey crystals in my teas. So I'm going to go ahead and add that and give it a good stir. And then I'll let you guys know how great it is. But I'm going to put her information in the comments for everyone on both sites, so that if you are interested in checking out her teas, check it out. Okay, I think you will be absolutely, they're delicious. I haven't, even the sea moss tea was really good, and I'm not a big fan of tea moss, even though tea moss doesn't really have that much of a flavor, but it was really good, and I had that one last week, and I think I'm going to order me some more of that. So I am typing it in. If you are she is also on Instagram, and this is her website. And her name is, again, Angel Johnson. And she is definitely that, an angel. So, yeah. So we got Deneen and Ramonda from St. Martin is representing. Good morning over on Facebook. And we have my girlfriends, Deneen from Spartanburg, South Carolina. That is my birthplace where I was born and raised. I'm home, so I don't call it home anymore because I am home. The Sparkle City is in the house. All right. So today's topic, if you are not on my blog, I encourage you to get on my blog, because you get access to what is coming up on Tea Talks via email, usually the day before. You also get a link to Tea Talks. And not just that, there are other things that if you're not on the blog, you're not getting on Instagram or Facebook. You're not getting other helpful information and feedback. So if you are not on the blog, I encourage you to sign up for my blog. Just go to my website, which is plantedtoflourish.com, and sign up for the blog. All right. So let's see how this tea is. Very good. Very good. And this is my growing, thriving, flourishing mug. You can also order that on my website if you like it. So let's get in today's Tea Talks with Coach Tracey. Today's topic is about sex, intimacy, and trauma. I know the three-letter word that many of us were made to feel as if it was a dirty word when we were growing up. Let's talk about it, though. When someone has experienced trauma, and it doesn't matter what type of trauma, it could be childhood trauma, it could be relationship trauma, it could be being traumatized sexually, or even if they're healing from trauma, they may experience a disconnect from physiologically in their body. Many of us don't feel safe in our body if we have experienced trauma. If that is something that you have experienced, not feeling safe in your body, if you are okay with sharing, please drop it in the comments, and just drop in just a thumbs up. That is something that you have experienced, because it's not easy. You have to get your nervous system back involved, and you have to connect with your body in a new way because you've lost that connection. And the reason that it happens, that we become disconnected with our body, is because the trauma actually is stored in our body. And a lot of times when we are experiencing trauma, we actually disassociate from our body as a coping mechanism to actually live through that experience. And thank you to everyone who's joined. So how does that look when you disconnect or disassociate from your body and you don't feel safe in your body? Well, many of us freeze up. Think about it. If you were a child and someone was attacking you, they are huge. They're bigger than you. There's no such thing as fight when you are a child, typically, especially an adult, especially someone that you trust, a caretaker. So your automatic nervous system is going to freeze up typically, versus fighting or fawning. Okay. So that's one of the ways. Another way, we just feel this general lack of unsafeness in our body, and an unease in our bodies. Okay. I can say for me, I felt that way sexually, personally, and I didn't connect where that came from, but my wounds from when it comes to sex and intimacy and trauma came from spirituality and religion. Okay. But we'll get to that in just a second. So when you don't feel safe in your body, it is extremely difficult to connect with the pleasure centers of our body, which sex is supposed to be pleasurable. Sex is sacred. Sex is the creation of life. There is no life without sex, right? Well, theoretically, we know that there's in vitro and so forth. However, the way that we are created is to actually have sexual intercourse, male and women having sexual intercourse and creating that new life. And please don't come at me about that's, the other identities. I am just using the physiological and the biological ways that we have learned of creating life. Okay. So before anybody come for me, let's get that out there. Okay. So because we don't feel safe in our bodies, we're not able to associate with the pleasure centers. We're not able to go to the depths of the sensual sensations of sex and intimacy. Okay. And if you got any children around, I should have said that before, please ensure. I'm not going to talk about anything crazy but just in case. And also, please know that I want you to be safe. So if anything is going to possibly trigger you, please govern yourself accordingly. Okay. So if you are a Black woman, and I'm speaking specifically to Black women because I'm a Black woman, we have been desexualized and we have been overly sexualized. We were desexualized with the mammy stereotype, the woman in the house that was maternal and took care of the slave owner's family. She was domesticated, she cooked, and she took care of their kids to the detriment of her own kids a lot of times, which perpetuated neglect and abandonment in the Black family. On the other hand, we also were objectified and over-sexualized when we talk about the Jezebel stereotype, where we were overly sexy, we were overly sensual, we were voracious, we wanted sex, although we were promiscuous and so forth. We were out of control, we were irresponsible, even to the point of sometimes being called sex criminals. And we'll talk about that a little later in that. I remember as a young girl, my stepfather had a visitor over to the house, and I couldn't have been no more than 6 or 7 years old. And I remember, and I don't even know why I remember this, but this was my first experience with being overly sexualized as a child. And again, I was only 6 or 7, but he had a friend over and his friend said something about my legs. I'm 6 or 7. I don't even know what's going on, but I remember him saying something about my legs. And he said, "Oh my gosh, she has some beautiful legs. Does she have on stockings, pantyhose?" But first of all, why is a grown man looking at a 6-year-old, 7-year-old legs that way? That was my first experience with being overly sexualized. That unwanted attention from men that we're not seeking. The catcalls that many women get, and not just Black women, but most women, when you're walking, if you're in the grocery store, you're taking care of your children, just taking care of your business, heck, at work, it can happen. But for Black women, it was very much done, and it's still done quite often today. For instance, being mistaken for a prostitute. When I talked about being a sex criminal, we've been mistaken for being a prostitute simply walking home from school or being with our friends. just a number of things. Now, how does sex, intimacy, and trauma happen? Well, one, for me, the first instance was when I was 6 or 7, but the second one was from religion. I grew up with Baptist roots, but my mother became a Jehovah's Witness. And if you know anything about the various religions, every religion has something to say about sex, particularly when it pertains to the woman's body. Okay. I was taught that sex was not supposed to be engaged in until marriage. I was taught that sex was basically something that you do not do as a child. You, as a woman, we are supposed to be virgins. I don't know about men because I don't know if they taught men to be virgins and if they taught men to be pure. I would venture to say that men are not taught to be virgins and to be pure, because we are told to keep our body count down. How many of y'all have been told that? Keep your body count down, even from our brothers, siblings, uncles, and so forth. They could be promiscuous. They could go out there and sow their wild oats, if you will. If you start coming to America, that's what he was talking about. Hakeem was sowing his wild oats in New York. Is that's what his father said, right? And it was perfectly normal and okay for them to pleasure themselves, to experiment, to connect in that way with other women. But it wasn't for women. So for us, especially coming from a religious perspective, we were told that sex was not for us. We were told that sex was also for the pleasure of men. We were told that it was for reproduction and no pleasure at all. However, if we read the Song of Solomon, that is not the message that we get. However, I digress. But we also got these messages from generational trauma. I remember, and if you are a Black woman, you can relate to this. How many of y'all have heard about somebody being a fast tail girl, or call it being fast? If you were around boys because you connected with boys better than you connected with girls for whatever reason, you were called fast simply by associating with boys. So from even a little girl, particularly Black girls, we have been very critical. We have been criticized. We have been desexualized. We have been taught and told things that minimized and possibly traumatized us when it comes to sex and intimacy. So it makes it difficult when we do get into these relationships with our significant others, whether they are male or female or both, to actually experience the beauty and the pleasure of sexual relationships. Another thing, we have to think about how misogyny plays a part in this. Black women and many women all together, we have been slut shamed. We may have had a wonderful, wonderful sexual experience with someone, but when we shared that experience with someone may have called us a whore, a hoe. Some of us have been called, in the last, I would say 3 or 4 years, we had the acronym THOT, that hoe over there. We've had that walk of shame. We've been told to wear our dresses down below our knees, all sorts of things that have formed this idea that sex is bad, sex is wrong for us as women. So that is one way that we've been traumatized. And the last way that we've been traumatized that I want to talk about is, of course, if we have been assaulted sexually as a child or even as an adult. I was almost raped when I was I just had my daughter by a neighbor. Thank God I had quick reflexes. I need him. But what could have happened, right? Now, everybody wasn't as, I won't say lucky, because I don't believe in luck, but as blessed as I was to not have experienced sexual assault. So if you have experienced sexual assault, if someone has been assaulted, it may show up as freezing. It may show up as pain. We may view sex as something that is manipulative. We may view sex we may even be confused about sex. And I'm going to read some of these comments. I am Aloe Lover on Instagram says she had a bad experience walking home from work one day. After that, I overly dressed for less attention. See how what just walking home from work. And because of that, she was traumatized and she decided that she had to put on more clothes to minimize the attention. So she basically became the mammy because she became desexualized by putting on more clothes. Ramonda on Facebook says, wow, men up to this day actually do not understand that it's not acceptable for them to say those things to children. And it's sad that they don't understand it. And it should be something that we would think would be common sense. But what do we say about common sense? If it was common sense, everybody would have it. Another thing that happens when you are dealing with trauma and it's affecting you sexually and the intimacy that you have in your relationships is that you can't be fully present because you're not mindful. You are typically wondering what's going to show up. The reason why we're not mindful is because there are certain triggers during those moments when we are seeking pleasure that show up as certain sounds, some certain smells, the way someone touches your body. I use a process called body mapping with my clients to help them to connect with parts of their body that may be triggered, so they will understand where they are being triggered so that they can minimize those triggers when they are with their partners. It could be smells, it could be feelings, it could be a number of things that can trigger you. So be mindful of that. Here's how it feels. And I'm going to get a napkin because I think my cup is leaking. Hold on. Thank you so much for your patience and allowing me to get that napkin because I think my cup is leaking. I don't know how that could be, but who knows? Anywho, how does trauma show up in your body when we are trying to experience sexual pleasure and intimacy with our partner? And sex, of course, is a physical part of it. Intimacy is that emotional and intellectual, mental connection with our partners. It can show up as an increased heart rate. You could be sweaty. Of course, your body freezes up. You may tense up. Various parts of your body may tense up. It could be your hands. It could be your shoulders. You start to feel as if you are starting to disassociate with your body, having an out-of-body experience. There's so many ways, and everyone's experience is different. So here are some ways and some tips that I share with my clients to help them, particularly those who are wanting to have the pleasurable experience of sex and intimacy with their partners and even with themselves. That was another thing with my religion, masturbation was like, that's a no-no. You do not masturbate. You do not touch yourself. And I always, as a little kid, I was always one of those curious people. I was like, how am I supposed to know, even when I get married or have a husband, how am I supposed to know what pleasures me if I don't even know how to tell him or her if I had chosen to be with a female? How do I tell them if I don't even know what my own body feels when certain things are happening? But that's the spiritual and religious wounds. And many of us have those wounds from our religion and our spirituality. If anybody is tracking with me, let me know. Send me some hearts up. I know this is deep and it's interesting. I'm really enjoying it myself. But here's some of the things that I share with my clients. One of the first things I share with my clients is to, one, connect with their body. And connecting with their body is something as simple as simply touching yourself and connecting with your body and allowing the sensations to go through your body if you are able to do so. I do not encourage anyone to force themselves to do those things. There are other ways that you can connect with your body and start to associate with your body. It could be dance therapy. It could be yoga. There are other ways to connect with your body. But for this particular, if sexuality is where you are trying to get to in intimacy, this is one of the ways that I do encourage my clients. And if they start to become triggered, one of the things I ask them to do is to tell when they go, when this happens, when X happens, the trigger, and I start to feel, let's say it's sweaty or anxious, my brain is making associations with my trauma, even though that's not what's happening to me. And here's the thing, we have to actually retrain, we have to unlearn those negative physical associations in our body and even in our mind. So we're working with our body and our mind. And we know that our body, our brain actually can actually create neural pathways. The beauty of our brain. And we can actually help integrate those old trauma wounds into our new life. And that's the way we do that, is by unlearning and relearning and creating new neural pathways. And this is one way to do it. The ending of that sentence is that I ask them to say is, this is okay and normal, and I can get through and past this. I am safe. And that's just one statement. You can come up with your own statement to help you maneuver through that. But when you have those sensations in your body, just know that it is a triggering part. Other things that I tell my clients to do, and this is very, very important, particularly if you have a partner. Christy Ruffin, thank you so much for the hearts. Ramonda says, very interesting topic. This is a topic many people don't talk about. We don't really talk about how trauma affects us sexually, physiologically, and how we show up in our relationships from this perspective with our partners. And again, even with ourselves, okay? Because everybody doesn't have a partner. But this is so important for us to talk about it. This is not taboo. This is a part of life. We cannot create life without sex, and this is part of it. It is our reproductive part of it, but it is also a pleasure center for us. God didn't just create it for us to not enjoy it, okay? The biggest thing that I always tell people is to have a deep conversation, a very vulnerable and transparent, honest conversation with their partners. If your partner is not willing to have that conversation with you, that is not the partner for you. Period, point blank. There's no need to discuss that anymore. Your partner should be willing to have the conversation with you and be very, very understanding of the fact that this is something that has traumatized you. Okay. Ramonda says it is too much a topic that we need to stop hiding, leaving people out there not knowing that something is wrong. Know that something is wrong in our sex life is not done, not want to have that conversation. Not exactly. If that partner does not want to have that conversation with you and is not willing to hear what is disconcerting for you, what is hurtful for you, what is scary for you, that's not the person for you. That is not the partner for you. Another thing I encourage my clients to do is to practice saying yes to certain things, but also to practice saying no. We have to be able to assert our needs and our desires, also our wants and those things, and also our boundaries. Okay? Have to be able to do that. Another thing that you can do, and then we're going to talk about some other things, is to set boundaries. Create a safety plan in case someone is triggered. And that's a deep conversation that you have to have with your partners so that you can actually have an experience that is pleasurable for you. Now, this is not something that's going to happen overnight. It is going to take time. It's going to take patience. It's going to take being mindful. It's going to take some deliberate and intentional action. You guys know those are my big words, but it's also going to take understanding. It's going to take giving yourself grace and compassion as well, because there is sacredness in sexuality. We should be able to receive it gracefully and embrace it deeply. That is our birthright. the goal of when I'm coaching with my clients is, one, to empower them so that they can move from being dissociative avoidant when it comes to sex and sexuality and intimacy to full embodiment as they reclaim their sovereignty. And when I say sovereignty, I mean their identity as a sexual being, how they show up in this world. That is their sovereignty. And to gain agency over their decisions when it comes to their sexuality. Okay. Any questions? Just making sure I got all of my notes covered here. And I think my mug is leaking. God only knows how that happened. But I will not be ordering mugs from this company again. All right. Any feedback on Instagram, on Facebook? So we're almost done. And I just want to leave you with a few journal prompts that can assist you, especially if this is something that you are struggling with. And this is something that some prompts that will help you to get in touch with your body, with who you are, with what you believe about sex, what you believe about intimacy, what you want, and so forth. And I'm not going to give you a lot of them because my goal at the end of this is for you to remember that it's okay for you to like and enjoy sex. It is okay for you to like and want and need intimacy. And just because we have endured trauma does not mean that we can't. We can, and many of us are. Okay. The first prompt is, what do I believe about sex? What do you believe about sex? Not what you've been taught. What do you believe about sex? Another question, another prompt is, what do you need to feel safe before, during, and after sex? What do you need to feel safe in your body, in your mind, before, during, and after sex? Another question you can journal prompt that you can write about is, what does sex mean to me? What do I want out of sex? And the question that I had to ask for myself was, what does intimacy mean to me? I don't come from a family that's very intimate and big on sharing sometimes. Did we love one another? Of course we did. But talking was not a big thing. Hugging and touching one another and being intellectually intimate was not high on the top of the list on either side of my family that I'm aware of. I didn't grow up on my dad's side, but when I was with them, that wasn't high on the list. Okay. And I with my mom's side of the family, sex was just taboo. And it's funny that it was taboo to even talk about it when all of my grandmother's children got pregnant. Her daughter, she had 6 daughters and 6 sons, and all of my grandmother's daughters got pregnant prior to marriage. So we should have been having some conversations. Not only that, my grandmother was searching for love and had so many, she had many children before she finally married my grandfather, where she had probably, I don't know, 6 to 8 of her kids. I don't even know how many of her kids were with my grandfather, but that's beside the point. But as you can see, that's how intergenerational trauma about sex can actually roll into your family. And we just keep passing it down the lines because no one's willing to have these tough conversations, right? Hey, Groovy Herbal Teas is on. I'm drinking your immunity this morning. It's really good too. That's just a few questions. And the last one I'm going to leave you with journal prompts is, what lessons did I learn about sex? Is it possible that they aren't true? A lot of times when we learn, we think that it is the holy grail because that's what we've learned from our mother, our aunties, our big mamas, our Medias, whomever. And it's not always true, because we have to remember they learned from their mothers, and they learned from their mothers, and they learned from their mothers, if they learned anything at all from them, right? All right. So that is how sex and intimacy show up in trauma. T-Talks, that's all I got for you all today. One thing that I would like to leave you all with is this mantra. I wrote this last night, and especially if this is something that you are struggling with, to really write this mantra out and incorporate it into your life so that you can unlearn what you've learned about sex that doesn't support what you believe about sex and how you want to feel about sex. Hey, Elise Jonesy, how are you? Thank you. Hey, Amy. Hey, Planets of Purpose. Shoni, good morning. My Facebook people, thank you guys. My Instagram people. This is a mantra that I wrote. And it says, and I'm going to, because I wrote it last night, so I don't remember it. It says, sex isn't meant to be scary, disgusting, a burden, or a duty. I was created to enjoy sex, and I'm capable of doing so in a safe and trusting environment. I don't know if many of us have seen The Color Purple. If you've seen The Color Purple, drop me some hearts in the comment box. If you've seen The Color Purple, there is a scene where Celie told Mr., I think it was Mr. is his name, that when they were having sexual relations, that it felt like he was going to the bathroom on her. Do y'all remember that? I know it sounds ugly, but those are also some things that we have been taught about sex. Y'all remember that part? I will never forget what she said. That was like, OMG. And if you even looked at the face that she was making when she was having relations with him, but then you looked at Suge, on the other hand, had a totally different perspective on sex with Mr. Can you see and the funny thing about it is Suge's father was a pastor, which was one of the reasons why she was going through her trauma, because she was disconnected. She had been disowned by her father because of who she was. He could not accept her as who she was. At the end of it, at the end of the movie, she connected back with her father and she said, "See, Daddy, sinners have soul too." Y'all remember that? That was just a beautiful part of it. But yeah, sexuality and intimacy are definitely really huge parts that are affected by trauma. And it's not just from sexual trauma. It can be from childhood trauma. It can be from racial trauma. It can be from any type of trauma. So I hope that this Tea Talks with Coach Tracey was helpful today. If you have any questions, let me know. I said I wasn't going to keep you guys too long. I try not to keep you longer than 30 minutes. Yes, religious trauma is a beast. It is. Tanny says that over on Instagram. But if you have any feedback, please let me know. If this is something that you are tackling in your life and you need some support, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I would love to hold space for you and support you in your healing. I am not a therapist. I am a trauma healing coach, and I support you in the process of finding your own answers within yourself. But I also arm you with various tools. Some of the tools are journal prompts and other things to help you overcome and unlearn to relearn so that you can show up the way that you want. Reclaim your sovereignty, reclaim your agency, reclaim your power. Shoni, it was your opinion is that it wasn't religious trauma. it was religious trauma, because if you think about it, it was, yes, he abandoned her. He abandoned her because of his beliefs about religion and Christianity and the Bible and what he felt she was supposed to do. And I respect your opinion about it. I've been in that place of being separated from my parents because of their religious beliefs, and being abandoned to some degree because of how they felt that I was supposed to show up based on how they believed from their religion. Religion is used as a tool in many, many ways. It was used as a tool in slavery. It's used as a tool in keeping people in line in so many ways. And yes, he did abandon her in various ways as well. All right, guys, if anyone needs any assistance with it, I'm going to pin my link to schedule your discovery session in my Instagram, and we will go from there. But Tea Talks with Coach Tracey is every Tuesday at 10 a.m. roundabout. If there's any technical difficulty, I try to prepare at night, but sometimes life just doesn't want you to be great, right? But I've enjoyed it, and I've taken too much of your time as it is. And the comments, I really, really appreciate you all. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and participating. Again, if you're catching this on the replay, let me know in the comments. If this is something that you think that someone in your community can benefit from, please share. And as always, like and comment. Until next week for our next Tea Talks with Coach Tracey, I will see you around in these social media internet streets. All right. I love you guys. Until the next time we talk, continue to sow and plant those seeds that are going to propel you forward so that you can grow, thrive, and flourish and become the woman of God that you have always been predestined to be. He is just waiting on you to show up. All right. I love you guys. Talk to you later.